Hi and welcome to Erik Bank. My name is Klas Palin and I'm a healthcare analyst at the bank. Today I interview the CEO of Initiator Pharma, Klas Elsborg, Olesen, and very welcome, Claus.
Thank you very much, Klas.
Today you released your Q3 report, but you also provided an update of your clinical assets. And maybe we should start with IPED 2015, where you have submitted some modification to the study protocol, and if you could give us some information what that means.
Yeah. So we actually saw in the clinical trial of the 2015 compound, we saw that we could not match the recruitment rates that we expected to do. Mm-hmm. And we're looking into what is the reasons for this. Is it post-COVID symptoms, and we see some of that, but we also saw that some of the criteria for including the patients, we actually made very narrow to get as homogeneous population as possible. And maybe we're a bit too ambitious here, and these are the criteria that we are loosening up a little bit. So it's not changing that we are including, the moderate to severe ED patients. That's not changing in this study. However, we are looking at some of the other complications that patients could have: high and low blood pressure, cholesterol, and so on. Mm-hmm. And when we have the approval from the regulatory authorities, we'll address, coming in and saying what we have changed. Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned that you raised the patient compensation.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that we looked at first. Of course, we see a financial crisis throughout Europe and also very much so in the UK. And we could see that some of the patients actually felt that they didn't get compensated enough. It is quite a large study, the 2015. Mm-hmm. They go in multiple visits, they're getting 4 doses, and we have a pre-visit and a post-visit. So they actually had to go to the clinical multiple times. And if they spent an entire day every time, we decided that maybe it was fair enough to increase the compensation.
Mm-hmm. Sounds nice. And what would be the time plan for when we could expect perhaps full recruitment and some data?
Yeah, so what we are saying in the press release is that we go out and we say we hope to have completed all the dosing in the first part of next year. Mm-hmm. And of course we are pushing this trial as fast as we can, because just like everybody else, including the shareholders, we are interested in completing this trial. So we can actually get the readouts and again hopefully confirm what we saw in the phase 2A, that this actually worked for these moderate to severe patients that are pure responders. So this is something that we are really playing hard. We are not just pushing this to see, it is nice to spend time on a trial. We want to get results, but our plan is to complete the dosing in the first half and then get the top line results following that, and then actually be ready to continue the business development as we have started already.
Okay, perfect. And then we could jump to IP 2018. You have 22 of 24 patients included in the study so far, and expect the 2 last ones to be included very soon. So
in the Q2 report, a few shareholders made me aware that I also said soon, and mm-hmm. It is soon because we are just lacking a few patients. And the 2018 has been a really complicated study in some respect, and also very much induced by the COVID originally. That it's patients that are depressed and also suffers from ED, and we actually get a lot of patients in interviews. We actually get some good conversations, but for them to take the next step and being part of this Scan study where they have to go into a dark room and they have to measure this and they have to do it 3 times. Remember, this is the 3-way crossover study. Has been more challenging than we expected. So we do not want to loosen up the criteria too much. We did some loosening up last year, and we don't want to do more than this. But we want to make sure that we keep on running this trial, include the right patients, because this is, if we show that this works, it's the first time ever that anybody has shown how to improve the erection response in patients suffering from depression. Okay,
and you also mentioned that the data no later than Q2.
Yeah, so we expect, as I said, 2 patients in. Mm-hmm. Those, sometimes when we see recruitment, we have 4 or 5 interviews and it's going really well, and then they start falling away. So we hope that we'll be able to complete the study within the near future, and then, hurry in and get the TFLs, the top line results, and get out there and see how it works.
Yeah. Sounds good. And for the IPT and 2021 program, you are planning to start a pharmacokinetic phase 1 study. What's the reason behind this?
Yeah, you can say the reason is actually it's twofold because we saw some really interesting data coming out of this the pain challenge study with the capsaicin, and we've been around showing this data to multiple parties, both clinicians and worldwide, and they actually find this really interesting because we're coming with a new paradigm in treatment of pain. Instead of focusing on serotonin and noradrenaline, we're actually focusing on dopamine, and this is what was really good here. So we have something unique. However, what we have done so far is that we have only do single dose administrations of our compounds in all the trials we have. So it's always been drug in a bottle, so we can control whatever concentration we want of the dose of the substance. But now we have developed this new formulation. We have developed a capsule that could be the end product, and before we can use that, we need to do a few studies. So first of all, we have done some, in animals, making sure the bioavailability is the same. Now we have to do the same in humans, making sure that we see the same behavior of this new formulation, which is actually also entailing a new composition of matter, so IP we're getting on this. And actually bringing that in, making sure that that properties of the API is still matching what we have seen, so we can bridge between all the studies we have conducted with the drug in bottle and also going into the future. This is part what we need to do before we can start a MAD study, the multiple ascending dose study, which is something we need to have in place when we start looking into the pain segment. If we want to do pain, we need to do multiple dosings, whereas we on the ED is more on demand, we can do single dosing. We can do them repeatedly with a week in between, but it is more on single dose, whereas in pain, we need to have this. So overall, it's actually strengthened the whole IP around 2015 and actually bringing us closer to a product that could be potentially be marketed. So we're really excited about this.
And you expect the first data from the pharmacokinetic study in Q1, and when could a MAD study then start if this falls out well?
Yeah, so you can say that the MAD study, then we will actually start writing up the protocol for the MAD study, and then you can start the MAD study later in the year. And then you can say also the MAD study, depending on what is actually the results coming out of the 2015 of the phase 2B now in ED, is there some learning share that we need to include in a MAD study as well. So you can say it's all interconnected because it is the same drug substance we're using for the ED program and also for the pain program. Yeah.
And lastly, about your programs, you're also evaluating a compound that has not been disclosed what it is, but it is under evaluation. Yeah. What is happening, and are you following the time plan for this one?
Yeah, so we're following the time plan, so we have to take a decision by the end of the year. So even though we're running up there, we want to use the time in a good manner, making sure that we turn all the unturned rocks, look under them and find out, is this actually an asset that fits into what we want to do? Is it something that we can generate again, this proof of concept? Of course, we have already, before we signed the option agreement, we actually had good belief that this would fit in. However, now you can say, but now we're spending the time making sure that all these pieces are fitting together into what we want to do, and also as the other programs develop. So we're definitely looking into that.
Mm-hmm. And at the end of the third quarter, you had like 46.8 million Danish crowns in your cash balance. Does this still provide financing into 2024?
Yeah. So we still see financing well into 2024, and of course, like everybody else, we're looking, is there ways we can save or find some soft funding that we can actually extend this runway? But right now, we are very pleased that we have a good funding into 2024, because it gives us a room to operate, and it also gives us a good time to act on all the results that we are getting in the near future. So we are getting the 2018 is reading out, the 2015 ED trial is reading out. And of course, this is something that is really important and pivotal to the company. We need to go out there and show it to the big pharmas and the small pharmas and see if we can find somebody that would continue developing these candidates together with us or by themselves.
Great. Thank you so much, Claus.
Thank you very much for the questions.
Thanks.